the motion, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you. I yield myself such time as I may consume. 11 months ago, on the floor of this House, the President of the United States promised the American people to, quote, reduce barriers to growth and investment. Mr. Speaker, the House is not in order. When we find rules that put an unnecessary burden on businesses, we will fix them. Those are the words of the President of the United States in this body. I couldn't agree more. That very month, the President issued an executive order that said, quote, our regulatory system must promote economic growth, innovation, competitiveness, and job creation, end quote. I couldn't agree with the President more. The President said our regulatory system, quote, must identify and use the best, most innovative, and least burdensome tools for achieving regulatory ends, end quote, and that it must take into account benefits and cost. I couldn't agree with the President more. He was right. Mr. Speaker, the House is not in order.
The gentleman is correct. Could the House please be in order? Thank you. The gentleman's recognized.
The President's words were correct. He was right when he spoke here. When our regulatory system doesn't meet the standard, the President's supposed standard, it kills jobs, suppresses economic growth, and locks us even further into stagnation. We see the evidence all around us. I recently hosted a jobs conference in Little Rock, in my district, at the President Clinton Library, which brought together a diverse group of over 60 private sector job creators. They were there to discuss how federal policies affect their ability to succeed in the marketplace. The job creators that I heard from in Little Rock that day overwhelmingly agreed. They were of one voice. It was almost unanimous. The Obama administration's overregulation of the private sector injects uncertainty into the market, which stifles job creation. One of my constituents, Susan Gunnica, a constituent of mine who owns a number of International House of Pancake restaurants, said this, quote, as a business owner today, I am in a constant posture of defense, end quote. Let me be more specific. Some of the job conference participants work for companies that provide low-cost electricity to Arkansas families and businesses. But even their mission is under siege by the Obama administration's EPA, which is intent on forcing some power plants offline. The compressed timeline for many recently issued regulations requires too much in too short a time frame for these electricity providers to comply. Sandra Bird of the Arkansas Electric Cooperatives put it this way, quote, as a for instance, the two most prominent rules, Utility MAC and the Clean Air Visibility Rule, could actually cause us to have to shut down our coal plants if they're not extended, end quote. Mr. Speaker, the House is not in order.
Gentlemen, House will be in order.
If plants get shut down, electricity costs will go up and more jobs will be lost. We will not sit idly by and watch as this administration kills jobs in Arkansas or in any other state in this great country. The President hasn't been to Arkansas in a long, long time, but I would be happy to show him the impact of overregulation firsthand. Republicans in Congress took the President's words to heart. His words on regulatory reform, we said, hey, you're right, Mr. President. We're going to do something about it. We saw the evidence of overly burdensome regulations all around us. So what did we do? We got to work. We wrote a bill, the Regulatory Accountability Act, to reform a regulatory system so that it does exactly what the President said it should do. We built the bill on the very terms of President Obama's executive order. It calls on agencies to consider the benefits and the costs before they regulate. It calls on agencies to use the best reasonably available science. It calls on agencies to use the best, most innovative, and least burdensome tools for achieving regulatory ends. And it does so while assuring that agencies will achieve every single statutory objective Congress sets before them.